Hey, welcome back. Simple truth. I'm giving our producer a hard time today because I'm just excited about the story. So far, 2 episodes, 1 verse, maybe. So let's see if we can do a 3rd episode. I'm in 1 Samuel. I'm in chapter 16, talking about David. We just did the blob, probably my new favorite object lesson. I have a few of those. Drop the rock is one of those. 8 seconds is one of those. I love 8 seconds, right? And now I think up there is going to be the blob. Right? Probably like my 3rd favorite, right? After Drop the Rock in 8 seconds, probably the blob, right? But we're talking about God getting ready to launch you. We're talking about David sitting out, twiddling his thumb, watching a bunch of sheep. His brothers had a different name for them, but it wasn't a really good term of endurance, whatever that word is, that, you know, when you're endearing yourself to people, right? So David's sitting out there, and his world's about to change because, let's pick it up, says this. Samuel said to Jesse, "Are all your sons here?" Now, imagine Jesse at this moment, because he was supposed to bring all of his sons in front of the prophet, but he didn't do it because he predetermined that one son wasn't worthy of this whole thing. Now, I don't know that that means that Jesse didn't love his son and that Jesse thought blah, blah, blah. I think it just means that Jesse did what the rest of us did. Right? I think it's funny because I know when women tend to have a lot of clothes, some of them, right? Closets full of clothes. And I think it's really funny when you take a little girl into a woman's closet, right? Lots of time women like to show off their nice dresses and their nice blazers and coats and pants and whatever, whether shoes, specifically shoes, right? And they're just showing them all off. And sometimes a little girl will pick out the ugliest of the outfits, the goofiest of the outfits, and they were like totally into that outfit. Why? Because it's sparkly. Why? Because it shines. Why? Because it looks like it's straight from the 70s and all little girls love sparkly things like that. We pick out the thing that stands out, right? I think I used to do formals, right, for a Christian school. And one or 2 years, like, we would collect dresses and we would let girls pick them out. And always when you looked at a girl and they would, the women who were doing this would look and say like, hey, I think probably this dress, you know, or this one or this one. We picked out 5 or 6 that you might like. Frequently, the girl liked a dress that wasn't on those 5 or 6, right? Why? Because we just predetermined that this is you and we don't even know who you are. Right? We need to understand predetermining things. It doesn't work in God's economy. Jesse did that. So he asked the question by Samuel, "Are all of your sons here?" And Jesse says, "There remains yet the youngest, but behold, he is keeping sheep." Pretty much trying to say to the prophet, Samuel, yeah, there's one more, but he's a shepherd. Like, this doesn't work. Right? Behold, he's out in the... It doesn't say, yeah, there's still the youngest. Let me go get him. Right? Nope, it's, hey, there's the youngest and you're not going to want him. He's taking care of sheep. Now, again, I'm not trying to promote that Jesse doesn't like his son. Right? I'm just saying he predetermined that his son was unworthy. Can I just stop here? If I was going to make simple truth really, really simple today, it would be this. Please don't predetermine. Please don't predetermine somebody doesn't like you. Please don't predetermine something about something you're reading, something you're watching, something you don't you make yourself look goofy like Jesse did. Right? If your first 7 sons weren't picked by God, you should probably shut up right then. Right? You should probably shut up and say, "You know what? I'm not really sure what God's doing here." Right? Why can't we say that? Why is it so wrong to look at a situation and say, "I don't know what God's doing in this situation"? Why do we have to predetermine something super wrong, super right? Do you know there are things that we have declared right that God has declared wrong? The prophet Nathan says to David, yep, go ahead, build the temple. Do whatever you want. You got the favor of God, is what he says. And then God says, knock, knock, knock. Hey, Nathan, go back, tell him no. Right? And then Nathan has to go back and say no. How's it go from do whatever you want, you got the favor of God, to yeah, God said no? Imagine that moment. So Jesse says, nah, they're still the youngest, right? And Samuel said to Jesse, "Send and get him, for we will not sit down till he comes here." Now there's a great statement, right? Yeah, go get your son, because we're not going anywhere until you get him. Right? See, most of us So I'm going to just preach this. Can I just preach this? Have you ever been in a prayer meeting and you're waiting for an answer from God, and you just know God has an answer? God has something for you. Have you ever been in a study and you know God has something for you, but it hasn't come? It hasn't come, and your prayer meeting starts at 7, or your study starts at 7, and all of a sudden it's 8 o'clock, and God promised you, hey, I've got something for you tonight, but it hasn't come. And all of a sudden it's 8 o'clock, and the pastor or the leader says, hey, okay, we're done. We do 7 to 8, and at 8 we're done, right? And all of a sudden, you're stuck. God promised me something. Why isn't he? What happened? Have you ever said, no, we're going to sit here and study until I get it? Have you ever just sat there while everybody else is packing up going, yeah, I'm not moving. God promised me. God promised me something. I'm not going until I get it. Have you ever asked somebody just to keep talking? Have you ever asked somebody to keep praying? Have you ever asked somebody to keep going? God has something for me. Right? Samuel said, yeah, we're waiting. We're waiting. Now, listen, we all know that 7 is a godly number, makes everything complete. So why son number 7 wasn't the deal? I don't know. But it's the 8th son, right? And the 8th son is important, right? It's a new thing, right? It's a new beginning thing. 8 is important, right? But Samuel says to Jesse, we're not going anywhere. Can I again challenge you today? If God promises you something, don't go anywhere until you get the promise. Why are you so eager to move forward without the promise? If God promised me, hey, I've got something for you in this church service, like he does frequently, you're going to see something. You're going to get something. I was doing my devotions this morning, and then I was reading here at the center this morning as well, and God said, Annie, I got a specific verse for you, and I have something for you. And immediately I'm like, oh man, this means I'm going to have to dig. And this means, and I've read the verse, literally, I have read this verse 1,000 times over the last 10 years. And God says to me, no, Andy, I've got something for you. Are you willing to just stick in and dig in until God gives it to you? Right? Stick to it until God says, hey, here is what I have for you. So, simple truth, wait for what God has for you, right? Wait, be willing to wait for what God has for you today. Hey, we'll see you next time. Simple truth.